Hi folks, Trenton Bennett here. I figured it was time to do an update to my 360-degree studio tour. So while I'm talking, you can look around with your fingertip or moving your phone around or using your mouse to click and drag, and you can see my whole studio in 360 degrees while I give you the quick tour. This is a 10-foot by 11-foot space that I built in consultation with George the Tech, and he helped me put all of this together. I built all of the parts, but I consulted with him on how to arrange things, where to place the mic, all of that stuff, including every bit of furniture in this room has an intention behind it, and the placement of the mic, which is kind of cool. I really love the way it sounds, and the reason I'm doing this newer update is because I've made some changes to the way this studio works. So let me walk you through it. As you can see on the far room, or the far wall opposite me, I have two soft boxes, and then behind me to the right is a third light so that I can do my best to have three-point lighting without putting a light directly on the camera. That's been really good for lighting me up when I'm doing videos on a coaching call or any kind of a performance that I'm going to do. Then behind me, this green screen is for when I'm sitting with other people on calls and doing a static video. Like, I am very blessed to have Matt Haynes work with me to do series for audiobook narrators. That's a lot of fun. So that helps me have a nice green backdrop. Same with my podcast. Whenever we do videos, then I use that, though that's less necessary these days. But one of the cool things about this that may help you is there's three layers there. There is a black layer and a white layer, so I simply roll up whichever layer I don't need. If I want to take photos or do a self-tape, then I've got a black backdrop and a white backdrop I can stand against, and I can move all of this around very easily to be able to shoot myself. I've got a Nikon camera that I can put on a tripod to get really high quality 4K video. So I'm sitting up here on top of this chair for now, so you can see the upper part of the room. Let's talk about that. To my right here, let me shift the phone a bit so I can gesture. So to my right here, this is my Neumann TLM 103. This particular mic just works really well for my range of voice. I strongly recommend you look for a voice range, or a mic that matches your voice range. Put that better. So I've got this because I do have a tendency to push a lot of air sometimes, and that helps me with the plosives. I know there's back and forth on whether it's beneficial. For me, it seems to help cut down on plosives. I use in-ear monitoring with Yamaha in-ear monitors, and I've calibrated those so that it sounds like the same level of my voice. That way I can exactly hear how the microphone is picking up my voice and quickly detect whether I've done any plosives and I'm going to need to re-record. So then off to my right also is this touchscreen that's extremely handy for copy. It lets me also see Zoom call folks, but mostly I'll scroll through copy while I'm reading, especially audiobooks, and having that is extremely helpful. Above it is a Razer Kiyo USB video camera. It's the newer model that actually has its own processor in it. And I did that so that I can get decent video without really straining my system, because my system, we'll get to in a minute, is not some sort of high-end big thing. It just gets the job done and does it well. So off to my left, the bookcase, as I said, everything has an intention that kind of scatters out some of the sound behind me to reduce reflection. And of course we've got absorption. Above my head is a 4-foot by 6-foot ceiling cloud. All of these acoustic panels are 2-foot by 4-foot, except the 4x6 ceiling cloud, and they're all with rock wool insulation. So, that said, let's move down a little bit. Here's my actual workspace. What you just saw is the fact that I will stand to record, and then I will sit down to produce. That's why I've got two PreSonus Eris E5 studio monitors, and I gotta be honest, these are big. I should have gone with smaller, and at the time I didn't know. I thought, 5? Oh, well, that's just like 5 inches, no big deal. No, that's the cone diameter. That is not the size of the monitor. So, I am happy with them though. They're calibrated in such a way that when I'm producing I hear it exactly going straight into my ears, and they're very flat. So I've got a nice even EQ to know exactly what it sounds like before any production. Then below it is my Surface Pro. I can also use a MacBook, but I've got both. But I like the Surface Pro because it's fanless, it's not very expensive, it's very powerful, and it plugs into a Surface dock, which is underneath my Apollo Solo. That's what's changed about my setup. I used to have like 3 different mics set up and a couple different things, and I had a preamp And the Fredenstein preamp was fantastic, don't get me wrong. I just don't need it now that I moved away from the interface I had that was the Steinberg UR22C, and I moved over to this Apollo Solo. The Apollo Solo is fantastic because I can do some really simple pre-effects on here. So I got with George, and George put together a stack for incoming recording that includes a limiter. What that means is that I'm far less likely to do plosives, at least because of the pop filter, but the limiter also prevents me from overdriving it. If I have to shout or something, I don't really have to go off axis like I used to, and so you get more of my voice even when it gets loud. So that's fun. I love that. Alright, so that's my stack. I've got this very simple table that I put together, but it's very sturdy and solid. And the way I did this, it's actually really easy for me to just move this entire table away. If I need to do a self-tape, I just lift this up and I walk it over towards where that curtain is, and now I can put my camera on the tripod, point it here, I am good to go. It is the coolest setup for that, it's really easy. Then this little red guy here you see is my delightful AT2020, Audio-Technica AT2020 USB Plus microphone. I also use in-ear monitoring for that. It's side address. It's also a cardioid condenser. But I mostly will use that when I do my videos with Matt, when I'm on basic Zoom calls and talking, and I don't need to do like a video game record or something. I really enjoy the sound of the Neumann and the pre-processing effects of the Apollo Solo. And you can't really do that with a USB mic. So then off to the side there, the curtain is covering a window that is, it was an Amazon sound dampening curtain that came in a 2-pack, so I just put both of them on top of each other to increase the sound deadening. And I do want to take a note here for you for that. I want to realize and think about the two different angles when you're creating a space, whether it's a booth or a room. You can kill off outside noise and keep that from coming in, or you can acoustically treat, but each has different approaches. So this is all about acoustic treatment that you're seeing here. This isn't going to cut down on outside noise. But here's what I did to cut down on outside noise. I chose this room when we built this house to be the furthest away from any traffic and from the neighbor's HVAC unit and other noise. It's also very close to my neighbor's unit, so there's just a very small space in here that sound would travel through. We chose a lot that was far removed from a main road and also not close to any other roads with traffic apart from our own little street. Our street is a loop, and so we're on an angle of the loop. So we made decisions like that too because we had the luxury of doing so, thank goodness. And the other thing we did that I think was very worth it is there's different grades of air conditioning units, standard, gold, platinum. We did the one that's 1-up, which I think is gold. And what that means is that I can keep the AC running and it's not going to get picked up by the mic. I'm not kidding. I'm not doing noise reduction. You actually cannot hear it because this system, I believe it's the fact that they use, the central stack is pretty far away, and they use flexible ducting in every bit of the installation. And at the same time, because it's a newer system, it doesn't have to work very hard. It's also really quiet outside. You can't hear it when they're running. Being in Florida, they're running just about all the time. I couldn't really work in here without the AC for very long, so that was an investment that was really well worth it. Anyhow, that's almost everything. I'll go ahead and mention that down on the floor, I have a pile little, it's designed to be rack-mounted surge protector, but I did that because it makes it really easy for me to plug everything in, and it protects all the equipment. Especially in Florida, you need a surge protector in this case because it's designed for music equipment. It's also kind of a line conditioner, so the power is stable coming in. And that's also important to have. Last, also, I have gigabit Ethernet that is connected directly into the dock, and I also have gigabit optical going both directions coming into the house. So glass all the way to the wall, then Ethernet copper in the walls, and we're good to go. So that's my new updated tour of my studio. I hope you enjoyed it. And feel free to ask me any questions in the comments. I'm always happy to help other people with their studio builds. Hope you have a great day. Thanks, everybody.